In order to implement responsive design on our web applications, a few fundamentals must be put in place. And one of these is the viewport meta tag. And like all meta tags, the viewport meta tag sits within the head element. Let's look at it now by creating a snippet. To do this, type the exclamation mark into the editor pane. Then hit the tab key on your keyboard and it generates a rich snippet for you. And you can see that the meta tag is there, the viewport meta tag is there. Let's look at it in more detail. The viewport meta tag has two attributes, the name and the content. The name, in this case viewport, makes sure that the browser knows what kind of instructions this element will provide. The other attribute is content. And the content attribute has two properties. The first one is width. By default, this makes sure that the size of the content on a device is equal to the size of the screen on the device. It makes sure that they're the same size. The other property is the initial scale. If you set it to 1, it makes sure that 1 CSS pixel is equal to 1 viewport pixel. It also controls the zoom level when you flip the page from landscape to portrait or vice versa. Let's create some elements to play around with. So type in .container, hit tab, and I get a class with a container. Of type container, type in .box multiplied by 3, and I get 3 divs with the box class as their class specification. So we're going to use these to play around with the different responsive breakpoints that we'll see in a moment. So one will be set up for mobile, one set up for tablet, and one set up for desktop. So now I'm linking to a CSS page. Don't forget to add the link in the head and create a box whose width is 200 pixels and the height is also 200 pixels. And we set the border to 1 pixel, solid and black. And we set the display to inline block so that they'll appear horizontally beside each other until they are collapsed below their natural size. And there they are. Next, we'll look at what are called media queries. A media query groups together one or more CSS style rules and triggers the activation of those style rules when the viewport or device size reaches a certain size in pixels. Media queries are always declared using the @media keyword, and in our case here using a max width with a value of 767 pixels. We're going to set a background color to blue for any class or any elements that use the mobile class. We view our boxes and we see that there's no change. That's because the viewport is larger than 767. If we change this in developer tools, we can see by default there it's collapsed. We can see the blue is visible. That's because the viewport is below 767 at that point. And as we increase it beyond 767, we see that that media query is no longer active. So it's useful for mobile design or responsive design, changing your styles depending on the viewport. You can see here using a Galaxy, it behaves. If we go to an iPad Pro, it disappears because you can see here the width of an iPad Pro is 1024 pixels, which is much bigger than our setting of 767. We could then target our iPad Pros and desktops by using additional media queries. You don't have to do this. It depends on whether you want to have multiple styles on multiple device sizes. You could have it as simple as desktop and mobile if you want to. Here, we're targeting any elements that have the tablet class, and we're going to set the background color to green. Do a refresh, and it's still not visible because it's still outside the range we specified. Okay, iPad is fine because that's within the range of 768 and 991. Again, let's emulate the change in size of our viewport. Again, once we went to 992 pixels, it defaulted. In other words, the media queries aren't activated and the default styles above those media queries are activated. So we had max width 767, then we had min width 768 to a max width of 1991 or 991. So it's a range. And now we're creating a range between 992 and 1800 pixels, which is generally a large desktop size. If you want to go beyond that, don't specify a limiting max width. You can see there, the color black has been triggered based on the view size. And back to a galaxy, you can see that our mobile color has been triggered. Let's choose iPad. You see there's the tablet. Media query is being triggered. And let's go to iPad Pro and we can see there. So that's the basis of responsive design. Very clever, very easy to put in place. Once you get familiar with the syntax, you can create fantastic designs on different viewports.